Sometimes I hate having this disorder. I can't imagine what it's like to spend time around people without feeling anxious. I wish I didn't have so much fear and anxiety when approaching any new task. My anxieties have decreased, and my courage has grown to combat the fear, but there's a baseline of struggle that may never change. I'm considering making a video just talking about some of those struggles. If that's something you'd be interested in, let me know. For now, have some fruit from my suffering. These are 4 more things I've learned from AvPD. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. Have you ever had a dream? You know, those silly, sometimes scary pictures that play around in your head while you sleep? One thing that's emphasized when you get into dream work is the fact that these dreams are happening within you and are you. While the various characters in your dreams may seem other than you, they actually represent different parts of your larger self. Don't think about it too much. Or do, but this is also true of waking life. It's true in the sense that you know others based on how you are and how your life has mediated your relationships. Think of anyone you know and realize that the so-and-so you know is not exactly the same so-and-so as someone else knows them. The you known by your mother, by your children, by your acquaintances, are all different yous. While our relationships are filtered through our entire life's experience, I specifically want to talk about how our emotions color those relationships. When our emotions are calling the shots, you may, instead of seeing your father, for instance, see your fear of disapproval. Instead of seeing money, you may see the fear of not being able to provide. Instead of seeing a woman you're attracted to, you may see the threat of never finding love. I believe we can see the world as it is, but in order to do so, we must first learn to see ourselves as we are. We must accept and take responsibility for our feelings, for our fear of being wrong, for our resentment of others who are, quote, holding us down or, quote, getting in our way, for our traumas that we hold on to protect us from unpleasant experiences similar to those of our past. It's only by developing a right view of ourselves that we can have a right view of others, because we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. You are not truly comparable to anyone. Each of us is a unique makeup of attributes, never before existing and never existing again. Being a unique makeup, we all have our own unique lives, our own unique set of tasks that only we can do. While we may be able to find similarities or even overlap between ourselves and others, it's important that we not confuse our tasks with those of others. It's often said that comparison is the thief of joy. And this is true because the joy that is inherent in accomplishing our own tasks is forfeited when we abandon those tasks in favor of those of others. We do this either out of pressure from others to take on their responsibilities, or because we're afraid of what would happen if we just tended to our own tasks and allowed others to do the same. We also get into the habit of identifying with parts of ourselves that are comparable to the parts of others, not realizing that we are more than those parts. These dynamics make comparison the norm in many ways, and we quickly lose sight of what our own tasks even are. We then feel we have to compare ourselves to others to get a grasp on things, but this will inevitably mislead us, as others are never quite doing the same thing we are. A book I would recommend to anyone, The Courage to be Disliked, gives an analogy for this that has helped the idea sink into my mind. Imagine a flat plain that stretches out into the distance. You and everyone you know is standing somewhere on this plain. No one is higher or lower than anyone else. No two people are standing in the same place. Wherever you stand, your job is to take steps forward, and that's all. There is no getting ahead of anyone, there's no keeping up or falling behind. Such comparisons imply that you are on the same path as someone else, and that there's some known goal that you're both trying to reach. But neither of these are true. We all have our own lives to live, with their own unique unfolding and significance. You may cross paths with others, and that crossing may affect your trajectory, but your tasks remain your own. When we can drop out of the comparison game and learn to focus on our own tasks, accepting the life we've been given rather than trying to live someone else's, we can access the joy that tending to our own tasks gives us. You are in no way wrong or lacking just because you are different than others. You have all the tools and capabilities you need to accomplish whatever it is you need to accomplish. If you find yourself or anyone else comparing your life to that of another, remember that you are not truly comparable to anyone. Hold your standards loosely. To segue from the previous lesson, you've probably heard the phrase, don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Ignoring the fact that the you of today isn't truly comparable to the you of yesterday either, this is excellent advice. It can, however, be misused. When comparing yourself to yourself, the standards you hold yourself to and your relationship to those standards are of crucial importance. Life will throw you no shortage of curveballs. You may not always, therefore, be able to live up to the same set of standards. Whatever you may think you are capable of at any given time, whatever you think you should be doing, you may not be able to live up to those expectations. This is why it's important to keep a casual relationship with your standards, rather than a strict, committed one, where not living up to those standards is seen as a failure or a crushing defeat. Something I could have included in my video on wisdom was the idea of holy work, or simply the work. The work is anything that's done in the present, as opposed to anything done purely out of past momentum or future anticipation. If I may suggest a standard to hold yourself to, it would be to try and stick with the work, as the work always gets done what needs to get done. Wherever you are, wherever you're coming from, the work is always ongoing. It's never put on pause, and it can't truly be failed. It's something you partake in rather than something you make happen. At times, the work calls for pressing ahead with your goals. Sometimes it calls for a change of direction. Other times it calls for getting some rest. Regardless of this concept, however, the point is that our standards need to be flexible enough to take these different needs into account whenever need be. Clinging too tightly to a certain set of standards is a good way to run yourself ragged, instill unnecessary guilt, and, potentially, ruin your relationships. If you want to avoid these things, hold your standards loosely. Every part matters. Many times I've had the experience, and I'm sure you have too, where something is brushed off as minor or not worth addressing, only to have that same thing come around and ruin our plans later. We all have a tendency to see some things as more important or more worthy of attention, even when it's not the case. This is often due to our overvaluing of something we believe we need, while devaluing something we see as a threat to that need. We may be worried about losing a relationship, for instance, so we downplay an issue and try to push forward, pretending that issue was no big deal rather than discussing it. Such issues, however, may be more important than you think, and even if they're not a big deal in the grand sense, they can easily compound with other small issues until the weight of avoided emotions is enough to make the relationship collapse. Not giving adequate attention to seemingly unimportant emotions, to a bit of jealousy, a bit of anxiety, a bit of anger, or even a bit of affection, can end up having catastrophic results down the line. Of course, tending to these emotions can be difficult, and you may in fact lose something you wanted if you do so. But locking up these parts of yourself in your psyche's basement, trying to sweep them under the rug and pretend they're not there, will always cause us to feel alienated, disconnected, and resentful. It will take work, it may take years, but we'll feel more complete if we're able to give every part of ourselves a seat at the table. However you may feel about these parts, they are not here to prevent you from meeting your needs. When dealt with properly, they will help you meet your needs, and you will feel more fulfilled. So, as different parts of yourself are discovered or get triggered by experiences pleasant and unpleasant, don't ignore them for long. Every part matters.